Hi, we're live. I'm going to wait for some people to get in here. Thanks for all of you who joined. I have been dealing with some issues. Crazy. My neighbor above me was doing construction and it caused the ceiling in the bedroom to fall in, to collapse. I'm sure some of you have dealt with that before. I know that is unrelated to Jeffrey Epstein, but I just wanted to explain why I may seem a little bit frazzled today. This happened yesterday, but of course I am trying to get it all sorted out and it's been a mess. But guys, I thank you all for joining. And I want to, thank people who have been coming to the channel every day looking for new content and who've been with me since the beginning and understand my mission here: hold power to account, bring justice, and really to make sure that the story of Jeffrey Epstein is focused on the victims and not lost in the wealth porn and the power games that people tend to associate with this story. So I'm going to answer some of your questions because it's kind of shock. For some reason, there is this conception right now in the MAGAverse that Ghislaine Maxwell might be innocent and maybe deserving of a pardon. I mean, the idea has been thrown out there because she's talking to the number 2 person in the State Department, Todd Blanche. Why would he go and visit a woman who was a pedophile herself, touched these underage girls herself? And I think that's what we really need to remember and keep focused on. She was the one who took Virginia's panties off. She was the one who fondled Annie Farmer's breasts, and then Epstein went in. So, and not just that, she groomed them and she betrayed their trust. And there's a lot there. Grass chompers, you've been sending out notes for a long time. For the past hour or so, you said, will you write a book and make a standard $1 million? You should. No, I do not have any plans to write a book. I'm here with you guys right now. This is what I want to do. One day I'll write a book, but not today. And I don't know that I will get $1 million for that book, but that is very kind of you to say that. You said it would be important to note that Virginia had no bad words about President Trump. That's true. I spent a lot of time with Virginia, crisscrossing the country, trying to find people that would support her. She's been so maligned, and I think people forget that ever since she came out in 2011 with her story. People have trashed her, tried to ruin her life. Because she told the truth about what she saw, and what she saw was horrific and depraved. And yeah, so I think we knew that when we did the broken Jeffrey Epstein story, we had to have more than one source on it. And it couldn't just be Virginia. So we went out and we tried to corroborate all of her stories. And I found her to be incredibly credible, by the way. So Maxwell is a monster, says Diz. Why do you think Maxwell was moved out of Florida to a low security prison? I don't know. I mean, she only got 20 years in jail. A lot of people would argue she deserved a lot more. Can you discuss any new information about alleged co-conspirators who received non-prosecution agreements during the Maxwell trial? So there were a number of women who worked for Ghislaine Maxwell. Sarah Kellen was one of them, Nadia Marcinkova. A lot of them say they were victims themselves. They were, over 18 when they worked for her. A lot of them came from really dark backgrounds too. And they ran the sex trafficking operation. They coordinated with Epstein. They got the girls. They made sure they were driven around. They ran the office, the back office. You actually need a back office for a sex trafficking operation like this. And I think people sort of forget that. And so there were a number of people under that list. And so that is who you would consider the co-conspirators. I wonder though, if that would include the Johns as well. But no, I mean, that's the big question. I mean, this was this unheard of non-prosecution agreement in 2008 to not prosecute co-conspirators named and unnamed. It's insane. Okay. If Ghislaine Maxwell, nobody asks, You don't have to have the name nobody. That's kind of sad. If Ghislaine Maxwell wanted to help underage survivors get them into society beneficial programs, not all programs are the same. I did not grasp the reach of sports clubs when we were in those years. Ghislaine Maxwell didn't want to help underage survivors. She abused them. It was disgusting what she did. She wasn't there to help them. She was there to procure them. She called them trash. One of her friends, Christina Oxenberg, recalled to me that she said, they are nothing. They are trash. That is what she thought of these girls. No, she had no interest in helping them. And to this day says she was a victim and denies any crimes. Did the lady who committed suicide, Virginia, come off as suicidal to you? Yes. You want to know why? Because she was sex trafficked as a teenager from the years 2000 to 2002. And before that, she was molested by a family friend. Virginia had a lot of demons, okay? She suffered. Could you imagine that life? I mean, it was horrific. And a number of other victims of Jeffrey Epstein have also killed themselves. It kind of angers me that people don't see the connection between trauma and suicide and mental health. This is the true impact of these crimes. They live inside of you forever. And then a lot of these women, they fall into the arms of another abuser, claims that they're going to heal them. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell first came to Virginia at that spa, the Mar-a-Lago spa, when she was an assistant reading on how to become a massage therapist, and said, I'll make your dreams come true. I'll get you out of this horrible place that you've been living in, and I'll make you a traveling masseuse for a rich man. And she was the one who said, I will save you from what you're dealing with. And actually, Virginia's husband, Robbie, who I met, he sort of did the same thing. She ran off to Thailand to go find twins for Jeffrey. He wanted her to go find Thai twins, right? Sick. And when she was there, she met Robbie. He's an Australian guy. And they fell in love. And she always sort of described him as someone who would save her. I think everybody who's been through a lot is looking for someone to save them. And their marriage fell apart. The last time we talked was in February of 2025, a few months before she died in April. And, we had a long talk, and she was like, her life did not seem to be going well. They were in this custody battle, which happens in a lot of marriages. So in any way, trying to discredit her in the custody battle, how normal is that? How normal is it in a custody battle for one party to say the other person doesn't deserve the children? And so he fought, and she said that they had a terrible marriage, that he was emotionally abusive to her. We didn't get into the physical aspect, but now that's coming out through her diary. She did tell me, though, that he was the kinds of stories she said were horrible. And I can only imagine, having lived through the trauma she's lived with, gone through the abuse she's lived with, to have the person who was supposed to sort of be her man, to have that all fall apart, and her children who she loved more than anything. It was actually her daughter who made her realize, I need to speak out. That's the reason I need to come forward. She looked into her baby's girl's eyes, and she was like, I can't let this happen again. And that was what made her say, I can't be quiet. And I think to lose that all was so tragic. And then I think for her, she said she was going to come to the US. That's what she told me. She was going to go to Colorado. She needed some time away. That's where she wanted to build her retreat for young women and girls who needed a place to hide with her victims. Her victims refuse silence fund. And she would go there, and she loved animals. She loves horses. That's why she loved the butterfly. And she wanted to do that. I'm sad she didn't get a chance to, because maybe that would have changed what happened next. But yeah, Virginia was a fighter, that she dealt with a lot. And I saw it up close too when we traveled around. I saw the pain. She was a lot stronger than me, though, I got to say. When we were being rejected, every single door we knocked on, I was not like she was. I was not as resilient. I was not as, I didn't have kind of backbone that she did to just be like happy with what these guys were saying. I was like, what? You drove these girls around and you thought that was okay? You made the beds, you cleaned the sex toys, and you're now talking to Virginia and saying, I didn't know what was going on? It pissed me off. But she was a much more forgiving person than me. So, let's see. Maxwell's lieutenants. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the victims also feel a lot of anger towards Maxwell's lieutenants. I have a piece called The Women Who Enabled Jeffrey Epstein. I wrote it. Was a long magazine piece for Politico magazine. It took me months to write, but it explains the entire pyramid scheme of the women underneath Ghislaine Maxwell. And I highly recommend you read it, but it will lay it all out for you. There were a lot of people involved. This was a highly, highly, highly sophisticated operation. Alexander Dulforce. Thank you, by the way, Alex, for the contribution. Appreciate that. Lots of different people listen to Rogan for many different reasons, not just politics. An interview with him could reach many ordinary Americans. I agree. Listen, his platform is a zillion times bigger than mine. I would like to go on with a survivor of Epstein, because I do think it would be really helpful for them to hear from them. And I could offer the context of Ghislaine and everything I know about her, because I've done a lot of digging into her and her life. I did another podcast, Power, the Maxwells, about her and her father and her family and the depraved nature she grew up into, and how, her father was like this really tyrannical guy who, she had an eating disorder, and he would lock the kitchen, and he would berate her, but then also praise her, and kind of had this weird, I don't know, they had this very bizarre relationship. I'm actually going to write a big piece on it for Substack. You should sign up for my newsletter, The Red Letter. I'm going to try to explain the psychology of Ghislaine Maxwell and why she was drawn to someone like Jeffrey Epstein, who also actually berated her and put her down in front of people, called her stupid, and how she was just vying for his love the whole time, kind of like with her father. It's like daddy issues, and she ended up in the arms of another guy. Here's someone else. Sunil, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Thank you for the contribution. I really appreciate it. Do you feel like the Epstein story is cooling off and MAGA is falling in line? That is a really good question. Yes, I do. Some of them are. Not everyone. A lot of people are too smart for that, but some are. It's the influencers. It's the people at the top. It's the Tuckers, it's the Megyn Kellys, it's the Charlie Kirks, it's that crowd. They're falling in line, and I think it's making some of their audience fall in line too, but they shouldn't. They know better. Everybody knows better than that. This is a story that's bigger than politics, and these girls have always been used as pawns to attack the left, now pawns to attack the right, but they both look bad, both sides. And I think we need to stay on it. I think that this idea that they can be used that way is just unfair. And when we did the second season of Broken, we always made sure to steer away from the politics and to make this about the justice and the victims. And I think that's what I'm always going to focus on. Like, that's what my reporting is going to be focused on. But I do want to get justice for them. And I do think getting the names and the victims lists out there is part of justice. And so, I'm trying to work on corroborating their stories, especially for those that want to come forward, which is an extremely brave and scary thing to do. And that is hard. And even as a journalist, because they come after you, like I've noticed it, people are coming after me more and more because I want their stories to be told. Thank you, Sunil. AGH, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Thanks. Do you think Trump was involved in any way? I think at the very least, President Trump was very much aware that his very good friend was a pedophile, and he didn't do anything about it. Does that bother you? Bothers me. Virginia remembered meeting him. That's what she told me. And she said he was polite, and she actually hoped that he would release the files. Virginia also gave everybody a pass. She just wanted to be acknowledged. She was treated so badly. Thanks, Jay, for the support. But yeah, I think people who look the other way in this case are enablers. I think people who don't tell the truth now remain enablers, and they keep this sad story alive. So for everyone who slammed the door in our face, didn't answer the phone, yeah. I don't have subpoena power, but I wish that everybody would come forward. But to come forward would be to acknowledge what you did. Thanks, Kay. And what you did is look the other way. And in some ways, it's a crime. In some ways, it can feel even worse, Any plans of delving into the music industry grooming? Oh, man. I would do that. I wouldn't even know where to start, but I'm sure it's everywhere. I feel like any industry where there are a lot of children involved, and there's lots of money to be made off of them, and there's not a lot of parents around, and there's depravity. I mean, it's just a brew. It's a bad place to be. Thanks for all the support, by the way, from everyone. Kadar. Turtle says, bothered me Trump has 0 charges against him at this point. Well, the girls that did file complaints against him in connection to the Epstein story, they withdrew them. We don't know why, but they did shortly after. Thanks, Ryan. Samuel, how many knew but did nothing? So many, and so many elite people knew and did nothing. Think about this for a minute. There was a girl that was on the island. This island was so scary that she chose to try to swim off the island and drown. I don't know if you've seen pictures of Epstein's Island, Little St. James. The rocks, the water, the way it crashed on it was so dangerous, and she would rather die than stay on that island. Think about that. And think of all the people who have gone to that island. Exactly. Not doing anything is the same as a live omission. I think it's worse. I think it's criminal, but that's fine. What do you think about Michael Wolff's claim about the Polaroid with topless girls on Trump's lap? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Michael Wolff's stories, to be honest. I've heard all sorts of things, not necessarily about him, but I don't know him personally. So I don't like to comment on things I haven't seen myself, or heard myself, or reported on myself. Thanks, Diz. She said she's been following my pods for a long time. I appreciate it. Oh, Sarah Ransom. She was the one who tried to swim off. Thanks for pointing that out, Samuel. I should have remembered her name. Leah's uppercut said, I now live in St. Croix, and I can tell you the locals know what's up. Should we take a trip out there to the Tara Palmeri Show? Should we all go out there together? Talk to people? I should get on the ground, honestly. Surprised they haven't done more, the prosecutors out there. I keep getting the same question about Trump. I don't know. I really don't. I think he knew. That's all I can say, but I don't know. And Virginia met him. She remembers meeting him through Epstein. And he didn't care that she worked at Mar-a-Lago. He didn't know. He didn't care. Why not publish names victims gave you? That's a really good question, because people are like, if you know, say it. It's really dangerous time right now. I mean, you look at the president suing CBS for $100 million. Really, really wealthy men can come after you and destroy you. Your story has to be solid. You need to have legal support. You need to have people behind you. It's just a fact. It's this information. It's why victims don't come out. They're up against, it's the David and Goliath. They're up against huge sources. All I can do as a journalist is continue to report and report and report. But we are in really, really scary times right now, more so than ever. And the lawyers are complicit. A lot of them pressure these survivors too into signing NDAs. because they make money off the settlements. The lawyers make money off the settlements. It's really gross. The system is really bad. The people who are supposed to be protecting them are often just interested in taking money, NDAs. And the girls, they take the money and it's a poison pill. They feel terrible about it after. They often use it to abuse themselves, like in the case of Courtney Wild, who took it as a kid from Jeffrey Epstein and then ended up like using all the money on drugs and ending up in prison herself, spending more time in prison than Jeffrey Epstein. She had to go to a federal prison in Florida while he got to hang out in a county jail. And this is a girl that showed up on his doorstep with braces on her teeth. That's how young she was. Welcome to Friends. Thanks, Tim. Personally, I find it exhausting. I don't know. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, we should go to St. Croix. This is ultimately a class problem. It is. Diego, you hit the nail on the head. This is rich men exploiting poor girls. And it's also a class problem in the sense that there's two-tier justice system. The justice system did not care about the girls. They thought they could get away with this non-prosecution agreement for Epstein and that the girls wouldn't care. Think about this for a minute. I was going back to some of my old reporting. The prosecutor, the federal prosecutor that worked on this case, she suggested 60 federal charges against Jeffrey Epstein. And do you know how many he ended up getting? 0. Yeah, the feds decided not to prosecute him. They kicked it back to the state where he got 2 charges, one for procuring a child for prostitution, as if that's even a thing. He was a sex offender. I mean, what's that? It's just like incredible, right? Thanks, Grievous Angel. Very sweet of you to say that. Appreciate your support. Yeah. Thank you, Diego. It's very kind of your contribution too. Appreciate it. What do the newly released files reveal, if anything, about the financial sources and mechanisms that enabled Epstein's? Jeff, those are not newly released files. Those files always existed on the FBI vault. That's the scam in all of this, is that the Justice Department is trying to pretend that they are newly released. They are not. They already existed. The operation and sources, I think it was really a very simple like honeypot scheme in which Epstein he obviously used these young girls. He trafficked them to very wealthy men. And then he had compromise on them, socially embarrassing information, got their money, invested it, put it offshore, probably put it in places they could never get it. And that's how it went. I think at the same time, he probably was an arms dealer and tipped off lots of intelligence agencies and government and law enforcement. So they took kindly to him when he was charged with sex trafficking. And by taking kindly, I mean, they probably gave him a better deal, partially because of that. That's part theory, part informed reporting. I know that he did cooperate with the feds in the prosecution of his business partner when he was young, in a Ponzi tower scheme that Steve Hoffenberg was involved in. And he was a partner of Steve Hoffenberg. It was one of the largest at the time, $492 million. So Jeffrey Epstein was quite acquainted with working with law enforcement. And I think like a mob boss or a Don, he probably played both sides of the law. He's probably always tipping off the FBI. Do you think any of these girls were murdered? The ones who killed themselves? No. I think a lot of this information exists, and I think in court documents, and I think a lot of people probably have access to it. I think that they killed themselves because I think people are underestimating the mental impact of being sexually trafficked and abused. Thanks, depressed Canadian. I'm sad to hear you're depressed, but seriously sad to hear that. This has been depressing for me, frankly. Have you seen the trailer of Steve Bannon's documentary with Epstein? Epstein says he supports the Time's Up campaign. That's a joke. Wow. No, I've never seen it. Bannon, show us the tapes, man. Sam, yeah, thank you for your work. I appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate your support. I don't know, Kirby. Why don't victims just reveal the names of the Johns? It's scary. Like I said, they could get slapped with defamation cases against them. They get their lives ruined. That's one thing I think people don't realize. Like they were smeared when they tried to come forward by private investigators that followed them around, by there were attacks. I mean, there's the threats, the legal threat. I mean, it's scary. They don't come out of the gate with like big shot lawyer. Like sometimes they have big lawyers, but they always want them to settle because they know how painful it's going to be. They have to relive their trauma over and over and over again. And these Johns are always going to say they're lawyers and then work on campaigns to discredit the source. It's really hard. It's really freaking hard. All I can do is hope that if you know anyone who is a survivor of Epstein and wants to talk to a journalist, like please have them talk to me. I've talked to a lot of them, but it's all we can do. Try to win their trust. Thanks. Thanks, Clementine. Thanks, RD. I'll let you know when I'm next in Sydney. I went there once 10 years ago. I had the best time of my life. Best time ever. Yeah, a lot of substance abuse and PTSD troubles. I mean, how could you not? Especially you're so young, your brain is still developing. Like, it's terrible. Melania knows. I don't know. She was in the modeling world certainly around the same time. She was certainly around Jeffrey Epstein a lot. She probably does know a lot. She knew probably some of the girls, at the very least. Teresa Helm. Yeah, I don't know. Annie Farmer, I talk to a lot. Teresa, I see on TV. But yeah, we should all go on Rogan. Totally. I'm going to try to pitch his producer, actually. I think that's a good idea. I'll send him an email. But, it's a long shot. I was looking it up online. I was like, what % of women actually have gone on Rogan? Can you guys wait for this? Wait for this one. 1 in 9 women. So for every 9 guests he has, there's 1 woman. 10 to 11% of his total guests are female. Notable female guests include Tulsi Gabbard, Kat Timpf, Amanda Knox, Rebecca Lamove, Jillian Michaels. But yeah, no, it's very rare for a woman to get on the show. And also for me to go on as an advocate for victims, I don't know. But I also wouldn't even just go on as like an advocate. I go on as a journalist to be like giving credibility. And I would also be there to explain Ghislaine and like who she is as a person and why she was capable of committing these sort of crimes and why people should take seriously what the victims have said. And they all have the same consistent story, like who her father is, what he was like, what it was like growing up there, what she said about the victims, calling them trash. They're nothing. Tissues, you could throw them away. EGH, thanks for the support. How would you compare this to JFK and Epstein? I don't know. Honestly, I wasn't alive during the JFK cover-up. Epstein feels worse because it's a broad conspiracy that it also includes the president and his circles, and it's so many elites, and it involves young children. It feels, to me, it feels worse, but also I am more inclined to be interested in stories of powerful people being abusing people with less power than them. I'm interested in power dynamics and politics and how people with power use it. Thanks, Andres. Appreciate it. I don't have any direct sex evidence about Trump. Sorry. And I'm being honest. Is it true Virginia's father was working in Mar-a-Lago? I think he was. I think he was working in some sort of odd job in Mar-a-Lago. Thanks, Steve. Virginia was. And yeah. I didn't like that her father suggested that she was killed. They were estranged, by the way. That really pissed me off. that he would come forward and say that. It's like, you haven't talked to her in forever. She didn't have a great relationship with him. I think she felt betrayed too. You're right, Clementine, sex evidence, like a condom. It's really hard to prove, right? These people will always deny, and it's hard to prove. It's super hard to prove in these cases. Somehow women always get dragged. All right. It's been 30 minutes. I really appreciate all of you who have come in. Clementine, Sam, Casual Observer, Natasha, all of you. Depressed Canadian. We got to get you happy. Stephen Bond, all of you, thank you so much. AGH. I'm going to end this. We're going to do this every week. Maybe a different topic next week, but I do want to stay on this. Tell me what you want. You can leave in the comments what you would like me to talk about next or dig into next. And see you again soon.